Hi, welcome to Farah Academy. Today, we are going to learn about clean war. Have you ever wondered why we see less images of dead body today? It is all connected to the evolution of embedded journalism. So today, I'm going to explain on the history of embedded journalism from the Vietnam War up until the War on Terror. Today, we are lucky enough to have Dr. Eric to explain in detail about embedded journalism. So, here's the interview.
Saw the Vietnam War covered by television in particular. First of all, it was a war that was unpublic relationsized. The Pentagon did not control that war particularly well. Whereas, in fact, they learned. They learned from the Vietnam War that they made a terrible mistake. And because they didn't try to control the images that went out, you could argue that the Americans lost the war not so much on the battlefield, but they lost the war in the media. So Americans saw these terrible images of lots of dead bodies, and it looked awful. And as a result of that, popular support for the war in America ended. And the American citizens said to their government, stop this war. Now, I think people in the military in America worked out real quick that that was a bad thing they'd done, and decided to systematically learn how to apply the techniques of public relations to warfare after that. And so they learned how to do it.
Learning from the previous mistake in Vietnam, the US took preventive measure by totally control the media during the invasion of Grenada in 1893. So how did the media react? Well, of course, the media was unhappy with government decision.
In the aftermath of Grenada controversy, the government agreed to form a committee called the Civil Military Media Relations Panel. That panel was designed to brainstorm on the idea of how do we conduct military operations in a manner that safeguards the lives of our military and protects the security of the operation, while at the same time keeping the American public informed through the media. So, in September 1984, Assistant Secretary of Defense Michael Birch announced to 10 media organizations that they were now part of the newly created Department of Defense National News Media Pool. The idea of the pool was that to involve the media during military operations, yet they are distant from war fighting zone. The first national pool was during the Ernest Will operation, and followed by the invasion of Panama during the Operation Just Cause in December 1989. However, this initiative was criticized by media because they were just reporting the briefings. Besides, it was hard to mobilize the media pool as soon as a newsworthy event occurred, because they were unprepared and they were far from the battlefield. For example, during the Battle of Hafji during the Gulf War, by the time the military was prepared to send a pool, the battle was essentially over. Setting aside the flaws of this initiative, in some degree, the pool system had sanitized the war as the viewers see less dead body. Straight away after 9/11, driven by chilling effect and nationalism, President Bush announced War on Terror. Initially, there was a fair bit of attention on the 9/11, but over time, the interest reduced. In January 2002, the media coverage on the Operation Enduring Freedom was 106 minutes, but in January 2002, it dropped to only 11 minutes, and in March 2003, it was only 60 seconds, which totaled up to only 147 minutes for the whole 4 years of operation. Afghanistan then became the forgotten war.
Okay. Well, first of all, I think it's just about space. So if you on television, you're producing news for television. You've got a limited amount of space. You've got a half an hour, so you've got to edit it down and make stuff fit. Okay. Whereas on social media, you've got unlimited space. I mean, you can just run it, or just keep running it. So obviously, it's a lot easier. Social media doesn't take editorial decisions in the same way. I think if you're on mainstream media, they make editorial decisions because they got limited time. When they make those editorial decisions, on balance, they don't show dead bodies unless there's a really good reason to show the dead bodies. I mean, recently, the best example I can think of a dead body that was deliberately put on the screen to have a political effect, I think the dead body of the dead Syrian child on the beach. I mean, why did they put that dead body on? I mean, it's a conscious choice to put a dead body of a baby, a little child, on a beach. And I think it's because the mainstream media in the West was sympathetic to refugees. The mainstream, most Western journalists are sympathetic to letting the refugees in, saying this is terrible, shame, let them in. And they knew that this was a terribly emotive thing to show a dead body of a child. And so they put it on deliberately, and it had exactly the effect it had. People went, oh, this is terrible, let's let the refugees in. So I think when they show dead bodies, it's because there's a reason to show dead bodies. They want it for a political effect. Yes. I mean, if you look at the wars that have been going, if you look at the war in Afghanistan, it's been going on a long time, and it hasn't been going real well for the Americans. I mean, they really haven't been winning that war. You would have expected some kind of backlash, and it hasn't happened. So, bad images about wars in places like Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq haven't gone terribly well for the Americans, and yet the American public is not demanding they leave in the way they did in Vietnam, for example. And so again, you have to say they must be doing something right. There isn't a backlash. So yes, they must be controlling the images relatively well. If you look at wars like the one in Afghanistan, it's a guerrilla war, and in guerrilla wars, counterinsurgency is what the Americans would be using. Counterinsurgency warfare is very brutal. It's very nasty what you do, because you hurt people a lot. And yet, I don't know. I mean, Australia's involved in that war. Australia sends their special forces to fight alongside the Americans in these counterinsurgency wars. I think the average Australian and the average American has no idea what their troops are doing on the ground. Because they don't know what a counterinsurgency war is. Nobody tells them. And the media certainly aren't telling them what they're doing. So it's that kind of control. So yes, they are controlling it better. However, there's a caveat to this. We don't know. I think we don't actually know the answer. And the reason I say that is, if you look at it, the last time America fought a full war with their own troops in large numbers on the ground is when they invaded Iraq. Okay, that's a long time ago now. America hasn't been in a full-scale war with their own troops for a long time now. So if you look at the kind of wars America are fighting, if you look at what they do in places like Syria or Iraq or Afghanistan, they're using compradors, they're using allies. So they're using Afghans are fighting the war. America supplies one side, but it's actually Afghans fighting other Afghans. The same in Syria, the same in Iraq. It's not Americans in there. The only American forces that you see in there in any numbers are going to be their special forces. Small teams of special forces who are professionals. That's what they want to do. They want to go and kill people. I mean, that's why they joined the army. They don't mind being there. So America's wars are, from their point of view, very clean wars.
Clean
wars. Other people die. They don't die. Now, if America were to get itself involved in a full-scale, on-the-ground war with its own army in large-scale numbers, and they took real casualties, I don't know what would happen. I mean, it could well change. It could be that they maybe couldn't control that. But I mean, one of the things I think they're doing quite well is they're getting clever enough to avoid that situation where they take major casualties. So if they were ever back in a war with big casualties, I don't know if they could control that. We might find out one day, but right now we don't know. Well, I mean, if I was a general controlling a military, I would say no, absolutely. It depends if you want to win the war. If you want to win the war, then clearly one of the ways that you win a war is surprise against the enemy. In fact, the side which has the best information about the other side tends to be the guys that win. Winning wars, as much as anything else, is about having good intelligence and knowing what the other guys are going to do, but they don't know what you're going to do. Because that means you can catch them unawares. You surprise them. You do amazing things, and they go, oh my God, that wasn't supposed to happen. That's how you win. And so clearly all militaries want to keep what they're doing a secret. It's central to winning the war, is not to let the other dudes know. Now, if the public knows, then so does the other side know. Come over. So clearly the answer is no military in the world is going to want its information out there. They're going to win.
After all, I hope that all of you gain some information about embedded journalism. And yeah, thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.